This is episode 23 of the Green Room podcast. It's been a while since you've heard from me because it's so fucking difficult to try and get guests on this wonderful podcast because they're all too up their own arse to even respond to a message. Today I've got Eoghan Higgins with me. He's actually the first non-hip-hop act I've had on the show because I wanted to expand, because rappers are difficult to work with in every shape and form, and they're sometimes difficult to communicate with. No offense to all the great rappers I've had on the show before. We've previously done 2 gigs together, the Sunshine Sessions in the O55, which I've put together the last while, which is an acoustic gig that plays outdoors first, like an unplugged sort of thing down the laneway, and then moves indoors for bands in the evening time plugged in. And we've had 3 so far and they've gone very well, and if anyone's interested in attending, the next ones will be August 13th and August 20th. Eoghan is down for one of those, aren't you?
Yeah, 13th.
He's down for one of those, and hopefully we'll progress into a seasonal thing, at least twice a month, 2 Sundays a month till basically they either run out and stop being successful, or we'll have to see about that. So Eoghan, give us a small introduction into what you do yourself, what kind of got you into music, and kind of your background, I guess, and we can go from there.
Alright, how's it going? Thanks a million, Connor, to have me here. It's kind of mad to be out here because we're out in Barna here. We're literally just up the road from my grandmother's house, where I would have spent countless Sunday evenings running around the place acting the gobshite with all my cousins. So it's a bit surreal to be out here again, knowing that you're very close to all my family. But that's cool. Galway is a small town like that. That's how it goes.
Very much so, yeah.
So yeah, I'm a burgeoning folk musician. I'm trying to write my own original music, and going well enough with it. It is hard at this stage that I'm at, where I'm trying to make a start, trying to get as much gigs as I can, and basically just trying to take whatever I get. And I was delighted that you just out of nowhere, I think it was Matthew Nightshade that just,
someone recommended me.
I mean, I love that, man. Just out of nowhere, you just messaged me and just gave me an opportunity, and here we are now having a conversation about that. So big respect to you for that. And yeah, I don't know, I'm 25 years of age. I'm from a little village called Currandulla out near Headford. Quiet, sleepy, rural village. I grew up on a farm. Not too much notions there. We're hard-working people. And I worked a job for 5 years, and I met a great buddy of mine, Peter Broderick, who played music. And I had played music as a teenager, in angsty teenage rock bands, playing drums, loved all that stuff, and wanted to be a rock star, but never really had the confidence to write my own music, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I met this guy Peter, and I saw the career that he had made for himself over the last 15 years. Like, he supported his whole life being an independent artist, just writing his own music and turning his hand to any kind of a project, He never stuck to one genre. If someone asked him to do ambient music, he would easily turn his hand to that, and he was very open. And we just hit it off. He came to my place of work during COVID because he had no gigs. Obviously he couldn't make money from doing his line of work. There was no gigs in Europe, everything was shut down, and he had to get a basic 9-to-5 job, and that just happened to be on this organic vegetable farm out in Currandulla, where I had been for at least 3 years, just idling myself, not knowing what I wanted to do creatively. I was doing a lot of MMA and jiu-jitsu at the time, and I had aspirations to maybe go all in on that, try and maybe do professional in that, but that's a tough game. It's much easier to play music than to get hit in the head. Definitely, for a living. I agree. I gained an awful lot from that as well. But so I met Peter, and we hit it off. Before we played any music together, we were just having the crack at work on our tea breaks, laughing and joking, talking shite, and it was quick enough that we both clicked, that we had a lot of really mutual but really vague interests that not many people would ever have.
Yeah.
We both love fermenting foods and making wine and brewing beer, and that stuff was just super vague. Not many people are into it.
It's quite unique, yeah.
I got into it through lockdown. I was always interested in cooking and preserving food, and there was no pubs, so you kind of, it was cheaper to make your own booze at the house, kind of a thing, but it also became a mad passion. Yeah, it's really cool. If you meet up with someone and you can give them a bottle of beer that you made yourself, it's a nice talking point. It's a good gift. No, sorry, I don't have that to give you today, but I haven't been brewing for months. But yeah, Peter then, after COVID was closing down and stuff like that, he was getting a tour going on together, and he needed to get a band. And my mother had just passed away at this time, and I had left work for a few months. And while I was on a break, he calls me up and he was like, "How's it going on? I haven't seen you for a few weeks now. We all miss you at work." And he was telling me that he was getting he has a tour in the UK, all around the UK and Ireland. He's getting this together. And if I would go and play bass with him, and my jaw dropped, and you know, I just instantly had all these visions of dreams of touring and being a musician as a teenager. Had just literally just flooded me and come back to me, and obviously I said yes instantly. There was no way I was going to say no. And pretty quickly we started meeting up out in his house up in Spiddle, rehearsing, getting the set together, and yeah, like we went on tour. It was the most fun you could ever have, like going from town to town in England and Ireland, just playing music and getting paid and getting looked after, and everyone's so cool. Like you just meet amazing people, and I've met people there on that tour that I still would be friends with now and would hope to play music with in the future.
Where in the UK did you go to?
So we started off in, I think our first show was in Belfast. I'm not sure. I think it was the Ulster Sports Hall in Belfast. From there we went all the way down to Cork, West Cork, and to Kerry. We played in Levis in West Cork, and then we played in some church in Tralee. And then from there, then I think we went over to Wales, played in Cardiff, Leicester, London. Yeah, a load of the mad towns. Leeds was a good show.
Yeah.
London was the best show by far. The Jazz Cafe in London, 300 or 400 people. Insane. I'd never seen it been on a stage like that. I'd never seen any of this. This was all so surreal. I was just a small time farmer here on the big stage in London, and I was just loving it. And I think the crowd were loving that as well, because they would never, like, you know, Irish people people living in London, all these English people, they're kind of like, I don't know, there's some of them that have been to Ireland, but some of them have never been to Ireland. Yeah. They don't know where Galway is, they don't know anything. So some bogger from Currandullah was such a novelty to them, like, you know.
You may as well be a bumpkin from feckin' the Wild West.
Exactly, exactly. I'm like a leprechaun or something. So I got a kick out of that, and I would play up to that. And we got, you know, we had some great shows, and then we had a show in Leicester where there was basically 5 people there.
Yeah.
And we just had a great time just playing by ourselves and had the crack with the sound engineer. Yeah, like once I saw a taste of that lifestyle, and that there was a possibility that you could, you know, I'm single, I don't have a family or anything like that. It's not too difficult to support myself. Luckily I don't pay rent, I live at my home house. It's very attainable for me to earn enough money to put bread on the table for myself at the moment. And once I saw Peter was doing it and supporting a family, that was it for me, man. I was sold on it. Once I made my first book like that, that was it. Took a few months, alright, I didn't just quit my job straight up. Yeah. There was at least another year, and I had went on tour with Peter's now ex-wife, Bridget May Power. She was fortunate to bring me on tour as well. I was delighted for that. And it was just the 3 of us, me, Peter and Bridgie, and we went on tour. Basically the similar thing. I'm not sure if we played a show. I think that was 6 shows all in the UK. Again, Manchester, Liverpool, like, yeah, the big cities. I can't remember them all. But so from meeting this one guy, he just gave me so much opportunities, which is like, it's like the deep end of a folk scene. Yeah. Like now that I'm starting off playing my own gigs and stuff like that, you know, I'd never get half the gigs. I wouldn't have any of those opportunities that I've had with Peter. So I'm very, very lucky, very fortunate, very grateful to have met someone like that. And
it can sometimes be misleading in a way, because I'd say just the first 3 or 4 gigs I did were like massive. So after that I kind of figured like it would stay like that for the most part. But then the biggest one I did was just before COVID, and then when things restarted, I think the crowds were only very good because people were just mad to go to gigs. So the first one I did was fucking unreal, and I was baffled.
Back after COVID.
Just after COVID in the 55, and then I said fuck it, I'll do the Ors, and then that was pretty good. And then I did the Cellar, and that was shite. And it was all in the space of a month, and I was like, alright, like, so I think it was more so just the fact that fucking people were mad to go to gigs, and I was like, I'll have to rebuild again for the next year or so. And it's gone up steady. Like I can tell at this point, like, yeah, bands are always going to drag a crowd, rappers are a little bit harder, and then everything in between is kind of 50-50. But I found that it was a little bit disheartening for me at the start, because I did ones for like with a couple hundred people, like big bars, fucking savage crack, and then going back to like a smaller bar and like no one coming, and it's like, fuck's sake,
That's the way it is, man.
So unfortunately it can be based on who you know and who puts it on and who the contact is. Doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to be there, so you do have to kind of try and put yourself out there and get it yourself, because that person won't always be there, and naturally they have their own lives and careers to look after as well too, so you can't kind of expect it. But
that must have been a bit mad, having a Savage gig and then COVID comes and then you have 2 years of this, like, I can't wait to put these gigs on again, it's going to be class. The last one was so good.
Like, the poster is that one there, so Hazy Haze, Strange Boy, Citrus Fresh,
Strange Boy, we were just talking about him.
Up Front from the Split Profits, Lazy Eyes, Costello, Waken Android, Jay Sutton, Steve Locke, and then there's another fucking 12 down there.
Is that down in Limerick?
Yeah, in Pharmacia, and like most of those artists are all some of the biggest in the country now.
Strange Boy stands out so much to me. Like, we were just talking about him.
And that literally that one I went fucking unbelievable. Never saw a penny of it for reasons I won't disclose too deeply. But regardless, it was savage. So like, and at that time, COVID was kind of being talked about a little bit. I was like, that's not.
No one believed it.
No shite. Like, and then within like that was what, February was it? Where's the date of it?
That would have been February 2020, no?
It's February 22nd there, 2020, so it was like less than a month later.
March 16th, March 17th?
Less than a month later, man, I was going back, I moved back home because my landlady was like, she's an old woman, like, and her husband wasn't well either, and she was like, well, we don't want to lock you in the room for the next year or so, but also we don't want to potentially get sick or die. Like, I was like, that's fair enough, so I moved back, and college was closed up at that point. But that was a killer, but I was like, this is going to be 6 months, it's going to be a year, maybe. It went on for 2.5 years then, and then it was not something I kind of wanted to go back into straight away running gigs, because I had kind of a bad taste in my mouth from doing it before, but I said ultimately I had to look after it for the lads at least, and then I just kind of saw, like, you know, I could definitely organise gigs outside of that, you know, and I've kept with it since then. Like, it's not, I'd love to just be a fucking producer and artist and just be living off that and looking after myself, but unfortunately it's not that easy. And if you want to make a living off music, in some cases most artists aren't just making money off their own music. They usually have a 9 to 5 or they're involved with something else. For me, it's like just fingers dipped in so many different musical ventures where it's like, they all tend to benefit me at some point. Not always, like, I'm not selling 50 beats, running fucking 10 Savage gigs and mixing and mastering a load of music at the same time. Usually it's kind of like, this week I'm doing this week I'm doing that, this week I'm doing that, and it works out pretty well. But that's, if I had to give any advice to anyone, try and just have your fingers dipped in as many pots as you can, if you do want to make a living off music. Because there's some people I know who could, and they're just like, nah, I'm just happy just to fucking make tunes and look after everything else, it's fine, like, you know.
Definitely for myself, man, I want to, like, I'm not working a job, I have no steady income. The only money I'm making at the moment now is the little bits that I do get from playing gigs. And where I'm at now, it's pretty minuscule, like, but I love everything I get. But I'm fortunate that I'm living at home, I've got no rent to pay. I'm very fortunate, especially in the crisis we're all in now. So yeah, like,
well, even if you wanted to move out, there's fucking nowhere to
live.
Right,
that's true. That's just the housing crisis.
So, like, you know, I'm not saying that's my only reason, but I'd be a lot more inclined to get out there if it wasn't a fucking absolute nuisance. Like, so I'm just like, the way I look at it, I'm leaving a space for someone who has to find a place. Not to say that's my total outlook on it, but you know, it is very much a beneficial side of things. If that hadn't been the case, I'd probably be, you know, just about probably paying rent and putting food on the table, and that's about it, you know. So
yeah, no, I'd be stuck at the moment. No, I'm just. But again, I would be open to get to be part of a cover band or something like that. If that opportunity came, I wouldn't say no to it. Like, you know, if it was a steady pay to join someone else's project, who had some steady pay, like with myself and Peter. Like, he gets Savage gigs, well paid, like. So when I play a part of his band, like, that's a substantial fee, like, you know. Playing in the concert hall, I think that was back in March, National Concert Hall, like, what am I doing playing in the National Concert Hall? But Peter's label, they bought out the place for the night and they put on a massive show there.
Sick.
And Peter got to play there, and of course he dragged me along. You know, surreal.
You wouldn't say no?
Oh, would you? No. But then I'm in the 55 then, and, you know, I'm doing my own gig, and you know, that's how it is. It's the highs and lows. But
yeah, there is an awful lot of highs and lows before it becomes steady. Like, I mean, I've definitely deluded myself. Well, at least when I was younger, especially like being like, it's on the up now. The trajectory for me, like, it wasn't fucking like straight like this, you know. It was kind of, it'll go up a little bit and it'll stay steady for a couple of months, maybe a year, and it'll go up a little bit more and up a little bit more, and then, like, you know, you're gonna have ups and downs. People think it's just kind of easy street. It really isn't. Like,
no, man. You have to fucking keep at it as well. It's not always going to be great, man. It's going to be hard work. Like,
I've been doing this fucking 11 years now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's only kind of really starting to come together even in the last 6 months, year, do you know, at least properly, do you know.
There's a long road ahead of me.
Yeah, like, I mean, but I think with yourself, what you have is a lot more unique, and in the sense with the folk side of things, what you were doing the last night, I hadn't heard anything like that in Galway before. Do you know?
It's nice to hear that anyway. I definitely try and be somewhat unique, even if it's not the best set. I'd like to have someone say that, look, we've never seen what you were doing before.
Like, it's been my favourite act so far, which was the most unique. And I feel like just your stuff is kind of a little bit more universal, so I wouldn't worry too much about, like, I have to dedicate another fucking 10 years for this to kick off. Just with me, I've been doing underground hip hop for 11 years, so naturally that's always going to be harder.
It's so true. It's so true. Especially in Ireland, like you just said.
Yeah. The stigma's kind of gone away for the most part, but there still is that element of it, like, where at least the average person, if they hear, there's a hip hop gig in here, they probably won't go, I'll go into that. Like, but if it's a band or a fella playing guitar or DJ, it's like, that should be alright. But rappers, like, I don't know. So it's harder to drag stragglers in for that kind of shit, which is fair enough.
Where you were down in Limerick, man, there seems to be a huge hip hop scene there.
It was easier there at the time, like, you know what I mean? Because especially a lot of the prescription, they're not prescription anymore, but when they were, like Hazy, Strange Boy, Citrus and all that stuff, like, if you got them on the bill, like, people would definitely come, do you know what I mean? And we just support them or something like that.
What do you think that is? Like, do you think, like, Limerick has this notorious thing of being Stab City? Now, I'd never had experience that. Anytime I went to Limerick, I thought it was a lovely town, like, you know, and every place has its rough spots.
Yeah, every place.
Do you think it is like they're, I don't know, like lower class earning, it kind of turns to hip hop more so? Is that the way it is?
I'd say just generally there's more of an appreciation for hip hop in general there, and it's
regardless of social class.
It's more urbanized too, like where Limerick City is. You know what I mean? Like, it's more urbanized and it's more suited to hip hop, I guess. You know, more people tend to listen to hip hop. Like, there's very few people in Galway I'd have conversations with deeply about all the mad fucking artists.
Really vague hip hop, like
all that shit. Whereas the boys up there, like, every one of them would know every artist I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean?
They're nuts about it. Like,
they're a lot more hardcore hip hop heads, and I just think, from a creative point of view, they've had kind of opportunities up there, probably because of, you know, a lot of the downsides to Limerick, in a sense that it, at least at one point, it was quite infected with crime and stuff like that. So they were doing their best to give the youth opportunities, whereas Galway not so much. So there's a little bit of, like, we don't give a shit. So they like music generation. Like, I would say every lad I know in Limerick who's an artist came through music generation to the same teachers, same place.
What's music generation now?
It's kind of like I don't know if it's specifically for underage kids, but, like, it was like when the lads were all like 15, 16, 17, it was kind of like a community centre kind of for music, but it was proper, because, like, the guys that were in there were like savage DJs, producers, teachers in general and stuff like that, and I think that gave them a good boost at the beginning, whereas when I was 16, no one was encouraging me to do fucking anything. Like, and if I told them I wanted to be a rap producer, they were like, fuck yeah, like, you know what I mean? So I think that kind of alleviated that stigma for themselves and the people around them, as well as they were given proper opportunities from the get-go that encouraged them to, like, I could fucking actually do this, and, like, legitimately so, because like, some of these guys are fucking supremely talented, like, you know. So I guess Galway's kind of missing that in that sense.
That's cool, man. Because anytime a bunch of like-minded people get together for whatever it might be, music or any type of a project, like, if there's a load of people interested in the one thing and they gather, something good's going to come from it somewhere, like, you know.
I didn't know any rappers or producers here till I moved back to Galway. So when I was 18, 17, 18, I didn't know anyone. And, like, there's a couple now, but even then it's like they're all totally different sounding. Like, I'm the only Galway head from Bad Arts that lives in Galway. The rest of the lads are all around the place, whatever. Like, so, like, besides me, there's like maybe 2 or 3 other crews, and, like, we're like, I know the lads sound and all, but our sounds are all completely different, so it just wouldn't really overlap all that well for us to kind of get together and collab and stuff like that. We've all done gigs together here and there. But yeah, unfortunately, I just think Galway's, like, there's definitely a bit of that, like, because we're like it's a city filled with fucking hippies, you know what I mean?
It is. It's very
so
liberal, like. But
urbanized tracksuit boys in doing hip hop is probably a little bit like, oh, like, you know, they're probably like
causing trouble.
Exactly, because I got that. Aisling, when she managed the Irish, was like, oh, when you first came in here, I was like, there's definitely gonna be some war at this.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I was like, of all
That's
the gigs I've
horrible.
been to, it's only, well, she didn't say it in a bad way, like she didn't say it toward me because like I was worried about like people coming in and causing trouble, and I said like I've been to every sort of gig, and hip hop gigs are probably the only one where there's never been trouble. It's always the fucking techno gigs, and with bands usually it's grand as well. Do you know what I mean? But it's
usually it's just where like lads are raving or drugs are involved.
Generally,
basically.
There's no one really taking a load of coke to go to a hip hop gig. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even if they are, they're usually grand. Like, you wouldn't even notice it. Like, but
it's mad. Yeah, people would associate genres of music with like types of people who would cause trouble.
But it's the drill heads that ruined it, because they had fucking a gig up in the loft and they all fucking brought in weapons and everything. So they kicked the fucking shit out of each other. So there was they were actually, I've never gone to them myself personally, but I've gotten up there for a hip hop / rock gig, and like the guy organised it was saying like, oh, like it was quite hard for us to get you in here, and it was just me and fucking Ikenna, and Ikenna is like the furthest thing from drill ever. Like he did one of the Sunshine Sessions there, actually the second one. And and then me, I was just DJing like, and I was like, you know, it's like drill and hip hop, two different fucking things, and even then it's still just how one gig went. You can't fucking stigmatise the whole genre because of that. Like,
no, but one bad crowd would give out the whole genre.
Unfortunately, because they don't want their fucking place to be wrecked and destroyed. Like,
yeah, well, I couldn't really. I fall into the genre maybe of folk music, and I really don't understand genres, and I definitely don't stick to one at the moment where I am.
Yeah.
Like folk music's not going to. People are definitely going to not think that people are going to be causing trouble.
No.
But anyone at any gig could just get drunk and cause trouble. Like, you know, you have idiots everywhere. Like. This is known well.
New Year's Eve in the 55, man, the quietest New Year's fucking gaff in the fucking city, and there's a fella in there smoking ket and just goes
fuck off.
It's like 8 in the evening, like, and it's just like I'm sitting next to an uncle quiet, and he just goes fucking apeshit trying to fuck. He wasn't going for people, but he was just being dangerous. Like he was smashing glasses and like picking up the rugs and shit like this. And it was like, you know, there you go. It was the quietest fucking pub, quietest night. For New Year's, considering, like, I was like, do you know what I mean? Like, that it can happen fucking anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're fucking smoking ket before you go into a fucking bar, like.
Jesus.
But I don't think that in my case, I'm probably established enough to have a name where it's like, look, I've done gigs all around the city at this point. Like, if people can vouch for me, like they won't say, oh, you're hip hop, so you can't come in here. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not too worried about it now. But at the very beginning, it was hard to sell, definitely. Like,
and like we were saying in the car, like once the venue sees that you can get people in the door, and it mightn't happen every time, but we know, once they see you can drag in a crowd, they won't mind, because they want butts in the seats, they want to be selling pints, they want people paying in. If you can get people in the door, then that's just the hardest part, like, you know.
The best thing that can happen to you is to do pretty well the first time, so if another one does go shit, they'll be like, well, look, we know that you can get the numbers in some of the time, because there was one in the arse that did and like I booked it ages before that, but it was actually the weekend of EP, so like fucking 3 people came in, and it was miserable, like, and
try and put a gig on when there's a GAA match, or even if it's raining, like if the weather's bad, it's going to take a hit on numbers, like, you know.
And you can't predict that, unfortunately.
Any fuck.
So but in that case, thankfully, I'd had already put on like 10 or so gigs there, and they were like, look, we know what it's like, shit happens, like, apologies for that, but it'd be worse if you were to go in selling them this fucking, the place is gonna be sold out, and then
it's gonna be class.
If four people show up,
you're setting the bar way too high, like.
No, I never would. If I'm kind of unsure, I'll let them know. I was like, look, I don't know how this is gonna go. It's a fucking a game of chance here. Like, it's up to yourselves if it goes badly or not. But I've got the repertoire to.
I'm sure have you had to cancel a gig ever? That's always
well, some of the boys wanted to cancel that one.
Okay.
Who like were organising it, weren't, and I just flat out refused because I'd spent the last 3 months fucking putting this together. So I was like, nah.
That was successful, you were saying.
And of course they were happy to say, oh, this fucking gig went so well that I helped organise. And I was like, no, you try to fucking ruin it. Like, it's like, if you actually made the effort to try and organise it, we could have done an even better night. Like, but it did go fucking savage in fairness. So I'm not complaining now at this point. But no, I've never cancelled anything, to be honest. Like, I've had people drop out on the fucking day or the night before,
that will always happen, and
it's cuntish. I don't respect, unless there's an emergency, fuck you if you do that.
It's horrible,
because usually you knew, because in some cases I could be texting them, like I text everyone like a week or two before the gig, like, are you all good, whatever,
you're on the ball with it, like,
and you just know when someone's not responding. And then it's like, and then on the day, oh, actually I can't go. It's like, man, if you could you've told me 2 weeks ago I could have got a replacement. Like, it's like, then why didn't you? Like, I don't present myself as someone who's like, I'm gonna fucking go bananas at you if you do that. I'm gonna dislike you and go bananas at you if you fucking cancel at me 2 hours before the gig. Like, I've had in some cases they just not show up at all
and say nothing.
And then a couple of days later, oh sorry man, had a bit of an issue there, and I was like, one text man, one text, like, do you know what I mean? I could have got you a replacement. I know, yeah, but like it's pure. I know everyone's different, but I hate the whole like stick your head in the ground, you know.
Man, you're only as good as your word, like, or you know, if sometimes you can't do a gig that you said you can, and you know, try and tell someone as early as you can. You know, shit happens.
Exactly.
Whatever, like, you know, you might be booked or you got your dates wrong. People make mistakes.
100%.
It sucks. It's shit for everybody.
Yeah.
But just try and be a normal person and talk about it. Like,
exactly.
It's the only way. Like,
because if you keep doing it, it will. Again, people.
You're like running away from the fact that you have some like an altercation to deal with.
And everyone's always going to ask you, what's this guy like, what's that guy like, and me personally, I'll always be honest, and if you're tardy and you're not showing up and you're fucking annoying to deal with, I'll tell him that, because I know for a fact people wouldn't hesitate for a second if it was me, do you know what I mean? So,
oh, you're right, man, it's cutthroat, like.
Yeah, it is, because that's unfortunately how it works, and if you're putting in the effort and you're not a bollocks to deal with and you're good at what you do, then I think things will naturally work out for you somehow, at least in some regard. But if you could be supremely talented, but if you're a bollocks, personally I won't hesitate to let people know, and most people won't, because it's totally right, man. You don't need to fucking deal with these kind of people, you know.
There's no time for it, man.
No, most of us got into music to get away from kind of that sort of social high school musical fucking shite, and unfortunately I feel like, and I know I said this to one of the lads recently, or he actually said it to me, it was like, I feel like a lot of artists, they're so desperate for rumours and kind of like, oh, what's the gossip with him, or like, do you have any like stories about other artists, like they're mad, like, I'd only say it, you know, if it's something like dangerous, kind of like, look, be wary of this person, be wary of that person, but I always feel like they're just mad to like there was I won't go into any detail, but there was something that went down there recently, and like I was going to a gig where a lot of people who'd be kind of involved in the situation were going to be, and every one of them just like were mad, like, oh, did you hear about that? Like, do you know what's
just
this?
gossip,
I'm like, man, I'm not talking about this in front of everyone. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like I've nothing to do with that. I just happen to know you. It's like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, and then like when they all fucked off, they'd obviously told everyone else. They're like, oh yeah, man, like, do you know what's the goss on this? And I'm like, it's like, I'm not ruining someone's reputation unless it's fucking solidified.
Okay.
Fucking evidence, you know what I mean? Because unfortunately people will do stuff like that, you know.
Like, if it's any accusation, it's all hearsay. No one knows anything until like a truth comes out. Like,
no, it was nothing on the level of something like very bad, but it was just stupid kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I was like, that comes out the wrong way. It's gonna be blown out of fucking proportion. It's like, just leave me be, like, you know.
I think like this kind of stuff happens just when you're managing people in general. It mightn't be music. It could be. You could be managing an office of like people. You're a manager in an office. And you have 30 people under you, and you control them, try and keep them all happy.
It's hard.
Someone's gonna upset someone. They bring just dealing with people in general, like that kind of stuff pops up.
My attitude would always be to look, I'm staying out of it unless it is something very serious and there's significant level of evidence or trust there. It's like, okay, that person can't be involved with this. I don't want this person around, but I can't go on fucking just hearsay shit like that, because I know for a fact of people who've just done it to me, who've just said like, that guy's a cunt, that guy's a prick, oh, don't deal with him, he's awful. I know who it is. I caught him out on Reddit talking shit about me. I won't name his name, but he's an ex-rapper from Galway, absolute mon, and like
he probably knows who it is if he's listening. He
vaguely like someone was asking him to, he was asking on Reddit. He was looking for spots to do hip hop gigs or whatever.
Was it on Galway Reddit?
Yeah,
I'm on there as well now. There's how many people like in Galway are on the Galway Reddit? Like, it's a small world. It's a small community.
Because I've talked about this stuff, and I've heard some. Oh, sure, I was like reading through that, but
I met up with Nightshade. You know Matthew?
Yeah.
I met up with him in the Reddit. I sent him the link to my single, and he ended up in there. Funnily enough, it's hilarious.
It's funny, but I'd seen he'd asked. I want to get a spot at hip hop gigs, and someone mentioned me, and he goes, oh, I had a really bad experience with him before, and I was like, who's the fuck is this? Because his username wasn't his artist name. I clicked in, I saw the music he's posted, like, it's obviously this fool. And I was like, man, that's a very vague statement to make. That could be, I fucking fingered your arse, or I told you to fuck off. Like, you know, you have to be specific there. Plus, I don't even know who you are. At least at the time, I was like, oh, I know who you are now. And I'm like, what actually happened was, because there was 2 or 3 occasions where I saw this fucker talking shit, where I was literally flicking through random stuff on Reddit, and I just see my name, and I'm like, what is this cunt on about? Like, and what actually happened was, he asked me, could he get on the podcast while I was in the middle of recording an episode, and I said, I'll get back to you soon. I forgot to get back to him, and then like, just basically, I'm tarnishing your name from now on, like, and I was like, that's all it was. And he's like, I wanted to get on, and he also asked me, because I was looking for models for my merch at the time, and he asked me after I'd like gotten already like 4 or 5 people. I was like, look, I've gotten people that are like my mates I can just meet up with right now, as opposed to a stranger. Like, all good, thanks for fucking asking. And he brought that up too. He's like, oh, I asked to model merch for you, and you wouldn't let me. And I was just like, okay, like, it's like, well, at least it's out in the open now. Like, look, lads, I wouldn't let him. I didn't need him to model my merch, and I didn't have a spot for him on the podcast at the time because I was recording an episode. I wasn't fucking going to deal with that right now. There you go, like, and I was like, something so stupid, but if I hadn't forced him to be specific about what actually happened, it could be taken any, because a bad experience like that could be fucking something awful. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's putting your name out there in dodgy territory. So
it's terrible, man.
And I, in some cases, just had people who just didn't like me based on not doing what they want me to do for them, and then just going around spreading shite. But thankfully, for me at least, I'm a pretty credible person and I'm respected by decent people. Yeah. Anyone who does go around talking shit about me tends to be someone that's not liked at all, universally disliked, so people take it with a pinch of salt. And Galway's a small place, but I am one of those people in some cases where if something's said about me, it'll come back to me very quickly. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen too often, but sometimes you hear shit. But you hear shit about everyone, man, like, you know.
Galway's tiny, like. But
it's annoying like that.
Real recognize real, bro. Like,
generally,
you know,
thankfully,
someone can talk the world of shit about you, and it's meaningless unless, you know, it's I don't know, it's credited. Like, you could tarnish someone's name, but like, if I went to your best friend and said like, Connor's this, Connor's that, Connor's all this stuff, is he gonna believe it because he's your best friend? Like, you know, I don't know. Like, the cream always comes to the top, and the truth, like, if someone's just lying through their teeth, they're just digging a bigger hole for themselves. Like, you know, talking shit about someone, like, what good is that gonna do? Like, you know, it's not gonna benefit me to talk shit about you. I'm just trying to drag you down with me.
Pretty much.
That's so spiteful.
It is. It's a waste of time unless, like, it's the person poses a genuine fucking issue or threat in some regard. But
I'm happy enough now, man, that I haven't had, like, I'm just starting off. I've had minimal dealings with promoters and guys putting on gigs. I've had a few, but they've all been so smooth, man. There's never been a hiccup. There's never been an issue. There's never been a reason yet.
You're very lucky.
I'm sure there will be, man. I'm sure there will be.
I hope you don't go to that, but I think naturally you will.
But there's something about it, like, you know, hard times will carry through. Like, you know, I can't expect everything to be all easy sailing. Like, you know,
that's the biggest issue with a lot of people.
A big cushy lifestyle the whole time. I'll have no fire up my arse to go chase it. You have to have some hard times to fucking appreciate the good times. You know,
a lot of the most talented people I know just gave up because it just wasn't, like, they were put on such a pedestal straight away, and then it's like, oof, I'm happy to do stuff for people, but I ain't doing everything for you either. Like, I'm kind of like where they kind of want to be a superstar straight away. It's like, I want to basically write the songs and sing them, and that's it. Yeah. And that's fair enough, but if you want to be at that level, you have to get to that level. Don't just expect it. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people where they've just been lucky to get a good high, like you did at the beginning, and like I have too, and then kind of expect that, and then when it didn't happen, just kind of get bitter and downtrodden, and just be like, fuck that, and just gave up. Like, I know someone who started off there a couple of years ago, and they were fucking huge at the beginning. I didn't think they were all that great. I think it was for obvious reasons to why they got so much fucking attention, but they were solid. Like, it wasn't my thing. And I know for a fact they're working, you know, some shitty fucking...
they're out of it now.
Shitty job now. And I know that's the exact reason, because they're putting that fucking high and then expected everything to be handed to them then from there, and then fucking from there just had to give up, or just gave up pretty much. And I've seen that time and time again. And it's like, it's a pity, because in an awful lot of cases they're the most fucking talented. But I guess if you're fucking gassed up a bit too much, I think it's almost easier to start off as someone where you're not necessarily that talented and you're climbing the ladder.
Dude, you have to work, like.
Because I wasn't a musician when I became a musician. I played a little bit of guitar, played basic shit, but that was it, nothing extraordinary. Whereas if you're like a music prodigy and then you get into a career, I imagine it's a bit more. You're expecting kind of shit to go a bit quicker and faster, and you don't want to be lucky. You didn't get into it to be fucking putting Facebook posts and asking people, can you do gigs there, and, you know, having to know what a fucking XLR is and all that shit. So I it's fair enough on some level, but I think it's kind of something you have to click out of pretty quickly. You're like, okay, I have to fucking swim above water here, like, you know.
Yeah, it's so true. But I mean, like, scratch away at the surface and there mightn't be anything too much underneath it. In that case, I played music for a long time as a kid, and it's only, I suppose, last summertime that I actually started writing songs for myself, and with the notion of trying to be an artist. trying to be a musician and support myself that way. So this kind of stuff is all ahead of me. But saying that, I've been very lucky to experience the far end of the folk spectrum. Like, someone that's been playing folk music for a long time mightn't have seen and played the gigs that I've played with, just because of luck of what I've met my friend Peter, and he's dragged me along to.
You're probably lucky too to have people in your circle that have the experience so you can just run shit past them. Whereas in my case, I knew nobody, and it took me years, so I kind of had to go through it. Yeah. Whereas I think I can tell people straight away, it's like, maybe avoid that, maybe don't do this, do that, go for this. To a point, obviously things work differently for everyone, but that's definitely a huge benefit. You can avoid a couple of obstacles there of having to be shafted or dealing with the wrong kind of people if there's a good circle of people there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like having an older brother before you go into secondary school. He'll tell you don't be doing all this stupid shit. That's my brother. Like, I went into first year real naive and enthusiastic. Yeah. But pretty quickly he was like, "This is how it is." Okay, and you learn a lot that way. But it's the same. Some people actually can't be told anything as well. Like their way is the highway, and to be
learn their lesson.
They can't listen to anything and for it to sink in. So anyway. I'm fortunate enough that I've experienced this high-end folk scene that I would love to get to by my own name at some stage. I'd love to be playing at venues like Connolly's or even, playing the Roisin Dove with headlining a gig, or even at the moment where I am, to be a supporting act in a nice venue like that, a nice, decently well-paid gig with some good exposure.
For an artist that's like as well.
That's my next step up there. If I can do that, that's a goal ticked. To get a nice supporting slot. Yeah. And I could just get a supporting slot with Peter, which is fine. But I don't want to be eating up his scraps too much either. I want to be able to do my own work independently.
It's a bit more fulfilling if it's not just like, obviously he's not doing it just because you're a mate, but give you a bit more leeway. It's
Absolutely.
Like, I know this guy, he's good musician. It's a bit more fulfilling if it's a total stranger. It's like, you're class, I want you on stage.
You'll take everything you're given as well.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm never going to say no to any gig that Peter ever gives me, because he's my best mate, and we just have the crack always. Yeah. But I was never going to say no to playing in the concert hall and getting put up in the Clayton Hotel in Dublin for 2 nights, all free charge, and you're getting paid. All your food is looked after, as much drink as you can have. Serious imposter syndrome.
Half the listeners now are like, fuck you.
Yeah, man. Fuck you too, man. Take what you get. But that comes with some imposter syndrome as well, man. Yeah. For me, like growing up on a farm, I had an easy life, but I still worked on a farm, and I know what hard work is. Yeah. Somewhat. Like, I'm sure if my dad's listening to this now, he's probably dying laughing, because the amount he works and has worked compared to me is incomparable. But I still, growing up on a farm, there's no avoiding it. Yeah. So when you get treated like this artist, it's, ooh, you're an artist, you make music. It's so bizarre. Like,
you'll appreciate it a lot more too.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because you're used to fucking backbreaking work on some level. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
So yeah. So, who would be some of your inspirations? Because obviously I've mostly had hip hop acts on this, so naturally I'm hearing Nas, Tupac, Big L, and all that stuff. So it'd be interesting to hear what yours are, because I imagine they're quite starkly different. Like.
Yeah, it's all over the place as well, though, man. Like, I couldn't say I have a favourite band, artist, musician, anything. Influences, I would say there is definitely some. And the biggest one at the moment is Peter Broderick. Yeah. The dude's, I'm literally underneath his wing. I'm learning everything of the business from him. And I see all the projects he's working on. And I'm just trying to learn and adopt all of this. So he's at the moment the strongest influence by far. But other than that, to drop some names, like I used to love the Beatles as a teenager, listened to all those albums constantly, learned all those songs, taught myself guitar basically with a Beatles songbook. And all the classic alternative rock bands that like teenagers listen to. Like, you'd have your pop punk stage where you love Blink-182 and Green Day and all that shit, and then that eventually turned into like Kings of Leon, and I don't know, as I got older then, I got into more weirder stuff like Steely Dan and older music like from the 60s, The Doors, like stuff that my dad was listening to, the Dire Straits, all this, really old music that dads listen to. that I just thought was amazing, and the musicianship was just unique. Another big guy, Rory Gallagher. Dad, my father was obsessed with him.
Yeah, same as my father.
He had a tape that was like Rory Gallagher live in Europe, and he played it until the tape was completely worn out. Between two songs, In Your Town and Going to My Hometown, these two songs would lead into each other, and he would rewind these two songs so much that it actually wore the tape. So, yeah, that's just hardcore blues rock. So I love that. Would have played a lot of electric music. That's basically all I played: electric guitar, bass, and drums. To be part of a band, all through my teenage years. And it was only when I saw what the folk scene was going on back in 2021 that I got back into acoustic music. I bought a banjo last February to start learning kind of old time American music, as well as traditional Irish music. I've gotten crazy for trad music in the past 2 years, so I started learning banjo. And this February I picked up a fiddle as well, which is insane. Like, you know, it's so different to try and play a fiddle to a guitar, but I'm obsessed with it. All I do is just scrape away on this fiddle, and it gets better every day, slowly.
Sweet, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. My biggest influence is it's your man Peter. It has to be, like, that's just currently what it is.
It's not usually someone you know personally too that be your biggest inspiration.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a unique situation that I've fallen into. But I'm not trying to kiss his hole too much. But he's really open, really easy to get on with, and he was just super open to bringing me with him, which was really, really cool. And yeah, I hope that stays. And yeah, I don't know, the trad music actually kind of came with like, it's kind of a side thing. So after you play like a gig, you all these musicians would be around after the gig is over, just drinking pints, and it would break into a trad session. Like, everyone would have a trad tune, a channels tune to play, or something like that. And I always had a few of these sessions where, I could accompany and play some chords along with what was the melodies, but I felt left out. Yeah. Like the envy in me. You
weren't quite there yet.
No, I was like, I'd love to be able to play trad too.
Sometimes I would have always thought they're a group, like, but no, it could be just a couple of people show up, like, and they all kind of know the same songs, and they can work. Exactly. It's very dynamic too. Yeah.
There's like all the really famous jigs, reels, polkas, slides that everyone knows. There's like, you know, it's descending then, and how vague, and how, you know, everyone knows the really popular ones, they can all play along. But you get sick of playing them, and if anyone has a nice new tune, it's cool to do that. That's an entirely different world as well, the trad music. Like, you could just have some lad who has no notions of writing any music or making any career, and he's just works in an office, but he's played the fiddle since he was 4, and he's just unbelievably good, like, so flawless, but just so casual about it. Like, he's like an incredible musician, but also, you know, I just never thought twice that I could maybe make that my life. Yeah. So it's that blows my mind. You see some old men who are farmers and stuff, or probably mechanics, and they play the accordion since they were like,
you wouldn't think it. Like,
yeah, you wouldn't think it, and they're incredible musicians.
There'd be a stigma there that a farmer can't be creative. You know what I mean? He's too busy milking the cows. It's like, no, you'd be fucking surprised. Like,
change that. Yeah, farmers have a lot to say, in fairness. But
yeah, there's
they can be the rough people as well.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know?
The old boy racer type beat, you know what I mean? But no, yeah, there definitely is a little bit of a stigma there. You know, you wouldn't put farmer and musician together. It'd usually be, he likes to go down drinking pints and watching the trad, but he couldn't play a fucking accordion, could he? Could he now? Like, no, not at all. Like,
but think about it, man. Like, in times gone by, you know, people were busy all through the summer. There was so much work to be done, making hay and growing crops and everything, man. The summer, all the way from spring all the way up until the days get shorter, you're just so busy to be at anything. Yeah. And people would play music in the winter times, or my grandfather played cards. He didn't play music, no, but he worked all through the springtime, summer and fall, and then in the winter he'd go play cards in the evenings, because you know, it's too cold, it's too wet, you can't be, there's not too much farming to be doing in the winter. And that's often the time where people would gather and just gather in houses, and if you had a tune, you had a tune. Like, if you didn't have a story to tell, or like a dance to do, or a song to sing, there was long winter nights, man. You were no good, really. Like,
nothing else. Fucking TV was fucking even scarce back then. Like,
that's it, man. Like, how would you entertain yourself? Look, staring at your wife that you don't even like that much, the whole winter through, and you're just throwing sods into a sooty fire. Like, that happened too. Like so, yeah, a lot of repression in this country in that sense. But yeah, we have a great tradition of music.
Yeah, it's remained too, like, you know.
Traditional music is something so unique to Ireland, so I love to adopt that, and I'm obsessed with it now as well. And I think learning traditional music as a beginner, total beginner, played a lot of music, now I'm trying to get into the trad. It gives me a great perspective going back writing my own original music. It's like a beginner's mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play a lot of guitar, I know a lot about guitar, and I don't know a thing about the fiddle. I'm a child on the fiddle, so yeah. You use this approach to your guitar and it'll help you going forward, I think. So yeah.
Do you have any projects maybe in mind, or are you just kind of going with the flow at the moment?
Well, I did. I released an EP in February. That was the project I had.
Yeah.
At the moment now, I'm trying to develop a set, try and figure out, you know, what works, what responds to people well, which songs people get clapping or will come up and say I like that one a bit more.
Yeah.
That all takes time. Trying to develop the set at the moment. So I did release the EP in February. That's 5 songs that all originals. I recorded them with Peter out in his house in Spiddle. And then so at the moment it's just getting some gigs together, getting some mileage in that way, playing the gigs, and getting established with the name. And then down the line, as I develop more original songs, I would love to release an album, 8 or 10 tracks, original songs, of all different types of varieties. Like, it could be rock music, it could be trad music, it could be folk music, it could be insane ambient music, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what will come out in the wash yet, which is cool. Like,
best advice I can give for albums is just make as many tracks as you can possibly, and then just pick literally 10, and then for me at least, most of the time I'd usually make 30 or so tracks for one project, and if I was to pick maybe 5 to 10 max of those, maybe 2 of those after that might get released and the rest are just left there. And I'm like, I think it's the best thing, because too many people, I did it myself when I first started off years ago. If I made it, I released it, and then it might be a week later I'd be like, that's fucking why did I release, that's shite. So you start to take it a bit more seriously. So if you can avoid that shite of just, if you make it and it sounds alright, stick it out there. It's like, no, it's going to be there for life, or at least the stigma of having released a shit song is going to be with you for life.
I would try to, like, I'm a noob with recording equipment and all this stuff, but I do have the basic setups and a laptop and whatever.
It's all you really need for the most part, until you take it a bit more serious. Like,
so I recorded a couple of originals in my bedroom, super low quality. Like everything was just so poorly done, and I was going to upload it to SoundCloud, but I was fortunate enough to show it to Peter beforehand, and he was just like, "No, man, don't. It sounds so trashy. Like, if we're going to do it, like, let's just do it properly. Like, I can help you with this." So like you said, you might have just put the song up, and then later on you realised, oh, okay, it wasn't ready. I had the foresight of going through him. He's like a filter, So it's nice to have someone to bounce something like that off.
Because as well, people also will just say it's class when it's not that class. They'll just say that, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I want honest opinions, and
that's another thing.
I looked back where I'd asked people, and I was like, you knew things better than I did. You could have easily said that, or you, like, if I was you, I would have said that.
But you just didn't want to upset me.
But and it's like, I'm not like that. You know what I mean? And at this stage, I'm confident enough where, like, if I'm showing something, I know it's not shite. So if they do say it's shite, it's like, you're fucking wrong. But back then, sure, yes, from any aspect, whether it was mixing, just one fucking major aspect to the other, like, it could have been so much better. And they just didn't even bother to say nothing to me. So
it's hard to get lucky. It's hard to get an honest opinion, man.
And a lot of people don't want them. I'm very much an honest opinion guy, and like, I feel like almost every time I've done it, like, on some level, it's like, like, there was one guy, like, every beat he makes is fucking class, and he showed me this one beat, and I was like, oh, I like the beat, or the sample, I just don't like it. And he was like,
he couldn't hear it. He didn't want to be told.
He's almost sad about it, like. And I was like, I'm just saying my personal opinion on the sample. The beat works, it flows, everything. Just the sample kind of shy. And I was like, man, like, I fucking like 99% of the other beats.
You're deadly, man, but just this is my opinion on this one thing.
And I was like,
and it mightn't even be right. It's just what you think.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, I'm not saying it's shite, but like, an awful lot of the time people don't want to hear it.
I relate to that after gigs. Sometimes, like, a gig doesn't go great always, or you might feel that, and like, you actually can. It's kind of hard to tell what the audience likes or doesn't like all the time. I mean, when they're roaring and screaming and clapping, it's
usually it's obvious.
Pretty obvious then. But you know, sometimes you might have a quiet gig and someone will always say, oh, great show, like, you know, and it's like, you know, it's hard to actually see, you know.
Yeah, some people just say that for the sake of saying it. And like in some cases where I didn't really feel like it went bad necessarily, but like I felt like the times where I was just literally sitting up there DJing, playing the songs the fucking barman told me to play, I would get unbelievable praise just for pressing play. And then if it was fucking a gig where it was unbelievable, they're the ones where people are like, oh, for like 0.5 of a millisecond there, the mic was off. You know, it was fucking shite. It's just like, jeez, like I often feel like the most praise I get is for stuff that I just don't even fucking praise for. Just like I just literally did nothing, like. But then it's something you fucking pour your heart and soul into, and everyone's just like, and I was like, are you always doing that sarcastically? Be like, oh, I'm fair fucking played you fucking wiped your own arse, good man. It's like, alright, yeah, do you know what I mean?
I think you're touching on something there. It's like original music to covers. Like, say if you were doing a DJ set and you're playing the hits, like, people will always love the hits. Yeah. It is much harder to play your original music and for that to hit too. Because, you know, it's hard to say whether you like a song sometimes the first time you hear it. A lot of music needs to be listened to a couple times before you like it. Or,
And I like you could probably do a fucking Wonderwall, half-arse Wonderwall to a bunch of strangers.
These are always shouting for
and they might go fucking crazier for that than if you did an original and did fucking top quality delivery. Do you know what I mean?
That's something I want to stay clear away from. Those cover gigs, they're awesome, man, and people who do them, they're deadly. Wedding band stuff, but that's not what I'm at. Like, I'm doing original music. And I'll adapt a cover into my set, like a vague trad song or a cover to...
Just try to do something that's not been done 1,000 times, like Wonderwall or like fucking Ed Sheeran or whatever the fuck. Like, it's like
that's just a meme now, though. It's just like some fucker in the crowd, play a Wonderwall.
I always do it. Every fucking gig I do it, like.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you know what I mean? I'm always the fella. Like, it could be a fucking, like, a fucking DJ or a saxophone player. I'm like, play a Wonderwall there, man. Well, actually, please don't.
Look, the original music sticks. Because people who like original music come to those kind of gigs. You find your own crowd in that sense, which is important. But it's nice, you know, keep a crowd happy too. I'd throw in a cover song. I like to do something. It's where I'd learn like a pop song. One thing I was doing was playing you know, Angel by Shaggy and Raekwon. Is it Raekwon? Shawty, you're my angel, you're my darling. So I learned that on a banjo. So I was playing that melody on a banjo and singing that in a set one time, and I got a great reception.
Of course it did,
because it's so hilarious and so like
unexpected,
left field. But I also played original music around that. But maybe that was the song that people thought was the funniest.
Probably. I found, man, like, on some level, like, when you're kind of putting yourself into the mind of, like, say, a person who had a few drinks and, like, what makes them tick and what makes them done, it's like, I just can't relate to it when I go to a gig. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's not playing a cover, I don't like this, or he's playing stuff that I've never heard before.
Just another fucker with a guitar.
It's almost scary. Like, it's like, oh, I don't know this song. It's like, for me, it's the opposite. I'm like, I go in like, oh, this is like original, or like, what the fuck's this? And at least show some interest. Like, I was like, I can't relate to the whole, just like, and I've seen it because the average punter, it's just like, it's very much like, almost like this kind of self-righteousness. It's like, if I'm coming in here and if I'm not hearing the songs I like by the artists that I want to hear, then fuck you.
Fuck you, I'm not entertained.
And like, sometimes you can see the smirks and the obnoxiousness, and I had it recently in the 55 where like they were making fun of one of the artists at the Sunshine Sessions at the bar, and then, like, I was listening to them, like, and it was just pure, but like, and it's always the 5 or 6 big, like, you're looking at it, it's like, you've probably achieved nothing in you've just been in this pub for 40 years, like, and I'm just kind of like smirking at it, like, and then like one's like, oh, sure, that's his manager there, and it's like, and they were kind of like, oh, sorry about that, and just like smirking away and saying this, that, and the other. I'm like, he achieved more in that set than you've achieved all in your entire lives collectively. And they were like, oh, like, how dare you
like,
have
the courage to try and go and sing a song,
exactly, like, do you know what I mean, like, and it's like, if it was some Egypt playing the same fucking techno song that you're hanging on to from 1992 when you were cool and hip, then you'd be fucking dancing away and going bananas. Like, I really hate that shit, like, and I often call it out because I've been there. Whereas lads purposely being loud or like purposely talking shit or shouting shit over and saying stuff,
it's rough.
And it's not. I don't find it rough. I just grab the mic and say, "Shut the fuck up!" And if you do that again, I'm gonna fucking bounce the mic off your head. And they don't get that very often. So they're like, they shut up very quick and go back to smoking their vapes or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. Gaining the crowd's attention. It's something I struggle with sometimes. Sometimes you lose it. Sometimes you get it.
You don't need to give me the attention, but just be respectful. Don't be fucking heckling and don't be fucking
that's true. It's so
acting
true.
a cunt, like, you know, just shut the fuck up. Because
we played at a festival in Doolin, and like it was one of the first.
Was it folk festival? Was it?
It was the head school.
Oh.
It was an amazing festival, man. It was awesome. But our gig, man, it was like the first festival back after COVID.
Yeah.
And people just wanted to party. Like.
Yeah, they wanted to open.
And we were playing late at night, and it was a folk gig, late at 11 o'clock at night. People were steamed, like they were on it already. And the conversation from the bar was just so overwhelming on stage. Yeah. It was so distracting. Like, now Peter, God bless him, he's got like the constitution of an iron, like, because he just plows through it like perfectly. Now we talked about it, but for me, I balked. Like, it scared the shit out of me. Like, I couldn't hear my bass. I couldn't hear what he was playing. It was horrible. Like, such a bad experience. Yeah. Now that was all in my head. Who people actually who were listening loved the show. Yeah. But Jesus Christ, it's so distracting when the crowd, or when there's a loud bar to the right that is just bah, 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 bah.
I generally wouldn't have sympathy, but in that case, I guess it was just after COVID. Fair enough. Some of these people probably didn't leave their fucking gaff in that case. But sometimes,
and it probably wasn't as bad as is in my head and make it out to be.
But there are people where it's like, you know, you're standing next to the artist fucking roaring. It's like, do you mind, man? We're not in a fucking concert hall. We're in a bar with 60 people. Like, shut the fuck up, like. Do you know? And more often than not, like, politeness doesn't work usually half the time. Sure, I had that at the last sessions with the last guy to come in, and he tried going past me, and I was like, fiver in, and he was just like, what? Fiver in, and he was just like, who the fuck you? And I was like looking at this fella in his fucking pink blouse, like, I'm like, fiver in, and he like purposely whips out like 20 cents and just like throws it at me, and I'm like, €5 or you're getting fucked out. And like he pulled out like €3. I was like, look, I'll fucking take that just because I don't want to fucking deal with you, now go away. And then he was talking shy to a few people that kind of were walking in and out, and I just turned around to John. I was like, John, will you get rid of him? And he's like, why? And I was like, I just don't like him. And he's like, right, sound, just fucking schmucks him out the door. But like, I hate having to deal with that shit, man. It really is annoying, and in the 55 especially, because
it comes with the territory. Like, you have it where there's alcohol for sale on the premises. You always have the risk of someone getting too drunk. Yeah, you know?
But it just annoys me because I'm not one of those guys who just jumps straight into like red mode. Like, I'm like polite, respectful, and it's like they just push it and push it and push it, and I'm like, do you know what, man? I'm actually running this gig, so I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Yeah. So you know what? I actually have got the power to get you kicked out.
That's ha ha ha. Awesome. Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. What are you're going to cause a scrap there in the middle of the gig while someone's trying to fucking sing their heart out?
Exactly, like
bollocks.
I was like, I'll block the CCTV like there, and we'll see what happens. Like,
you'll always get that, man. You'll always have people trying to spoil the party, but like, I think we've been talking a lot of shit, which is, it's good fun, it's lovely to gossip, but I'd like to say that there's more good people coming.
Oh yeah. No, it's very easy to say that, like,
and especially because you got such a good big bill on these Sunshine sessions, like meeting other musicians, man, who are in the same boat. It's just awesome, like,
definitely.
Lads writing songs, trying to do their thing, playing music, playing guitar. Loads of that, like, it's awesome.
I'll back up what you said there. Like, we've talked a lot of shite about, but that we've talked a lot of shite about a couple of individuals, or that the kind of type of individual you'll come across. The vast majority of people I deal with in the music scene are are not a nuisance to deal with. People I'd call friends. I've met some long-time friends out of music and shit like that, and generally it's a positive experience. It's just naturally you want things to be a wholeheartedly positive experience, so sometimes it's usually when the negative things happen, they're so significant, they stick out enough where it's it's a little bit more of a stab in the side, where it's like, okay, it's not just some fella telling me to feck off. It's like sometimes it could be like, this fucking thing could fuck up my career, or fuck up this opportunity, or this went arseways, whether that's so unfortunately, because especially when you're trying to make a living, nothing's guaranteed. So if it's something when it involves your finances, it can be conscious if things don't go your way. Right. But generally, yes, most people I've dealt with are 100%. It's just the bad ones will stick out bad enough, because sadly, it's you're kind of like you're above ice. Anything can break the ice below you, like. Yeah,
but look, I hear the kind of stuff that you were dealing with, and you know, I can gain from that going forward. It helps me anyway, and so
we're not trying to scare people away here, like. But you should be scared regardless, because it's going to consume your whole life, and you probably won't make it in the end. You know what I mean? And also as well, you're taking up potential opportunities that me and Owen and a few other people want. So actually, go there and stick with your fucking job. In
there's enough singer-songwriters in Galway. Okay, I'm the last one in the door. Okay, door shut.
And if we fucking see any young lads picking up guitars, leave the guitar alone, get back on the Xbox and the vape, and don't follow your dreams.
No. I know, man. We have to. That can't. No. God bless the music. I love to see young lads coming up playing music.
Oh no, of course, no.
And you help like you always help out. You know, help down. Like, you know, if you can ever help a small guy, do that, because like, if people who are further on in the business don't cater for lads who are on their way up, like it falls, the evolution falls short in years to come.
Definitely,
you know? You have to help down always. Joey Diaz is a comedian, a very famous podcaster as well. He famously said that. He said that, and it stuck with me. He said, you gotta help down as comedians, you know. Look out for the smaller guys who are up and coming, because in years to come they're going to be the big guys, and you're going to be gone out of the scene, dead, retired, whatever. You know, that's the way the evolution works. You know, if you don't help down, there's going to be a gap, you know, and you're, you know, what good is that?
And I very much agree with that. This is the only unfortunate side to it I find a lot of the time, is like people will come across you and be like, okay, he's a few levels ahead of me, that means I can I can skip the stepping stones and just jump on his thing. I've had that with a few people. It's like, man, you're barely even able to record a song and you're asking me to fucking like headline my gig or like organize a gig for you and shit like that. It's like, you know, hold your horses a little bit, like, and it's like, I can help you to a point, but also I only have so much time and energy. I'm not fucking missing out on something I want to do to help yourself out. Like, there is a lot of, I guess in my sense, I was very much a help myself kind of guy. I had to do everything myself, so I very much kind of, I think most people should, for the most part, do that. Like, and if you want to get on board with something, you have to bring something to the table.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah.
But of course, if you're sound and you're talented and you're not trying to be a nuisance, then by all means, I'll happily help you, and most people will. But it's just kind of like, don't view people that are doing a bit better than yourself as like, okay, what can I get out of it? Because it'll be very obvious to most people who are socially intelligent whether or not you're like, hey man, like, I know I'm a bit below you in terms of my journey or whatever, but I really appreciate some help or the opportunity or whatever, as opposed to, you know, I'm just basically going to suck you dry and move on, which has happened to me multiple times before. So just be wary of that if you're helping people out. But of course, don't discourage the youth, because there's the future outside of a lot of things isn't the brightest, and I'm glad I'm not a fucking teenager now.
Me too, man. Jesus
so
Christ.
if you can stop teenagers going down the route they're going down currently and give them a fucking guitar or a fucking FL Studio or something like that, by all means do it, because they desperately need it.
That's another world, man. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, fuck, man. I'm glad I grew up when I did. Yeah, and I even, you know, I wouldn't mind if I was 10 years older, but no, like, I'm amazing, man. 25 years of age, nothing to complain about. I got in and out at the right time.
26, same job, like.
Right, yeah, perfect.
I very much do not envy them at all.
No.
But sure, look, that's another fucking thing. On that note, we'll finish up the episode. Thanks very much, Eoghan, for coming on.
Thanks, Connor, for having me, man. This was good crack.
I hope this encourages more people to become musicians. Potentially jump on the podcast too, because of course I can use you then to gain your fan base and then never speak to you ever again, which is obviously the motive here. But no, thanks very much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll have some more episodes on the way, because there's nothing planned as of right now, but I'm in talks with a couple of people, bands actually, which would be cool to have multiple guests on at the same time. And final note from me, August 13th, August 20th, the old 55 Sunshine Sessions Part 4 and Part 5. Other than that, I have nothing currently planned, but of course there will be some gigs throughout the rest of the year and the new year as well. Eoghan, if you've anything to plug there before we close up.
I'll be playing on that gig, August 13th, Sunshine Sessions, number 4. I'll be playing on that. I'm supporting Peter Broderick, funnily enough, jumping off Peter's wings. I think it's the 23rd of August, down in West Cork in Ahakista, in Arundel's on the Pier. That's the venue, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'm playing as part of the Peter Broderick Presents Arthur Russell and Friends band. We're having a little night in Connolly's down in Lepp in West Cork. Iconic venue, an absolutely beautiful place. And I'll be jumping in there for a few tunes as well. Check out my EP Special Tunes on Spotify, YouTube, all the major streaming stuffs. Go check it out. It was great crack. There's a wide variety of songs there. Yeah, that's it. Follow me on Instagram, Eoghan Higgins 209. That's EOGHAN. Thanks a million, Connor.
Sweet Owen.